Yeah, good morning, all the students. We'll now move on to our fifth lecture in this last module, which discusses about Hadoop pipes and compiling and running the C++ programs that are written using Hadoop pipes. Before that, let us quickly recap what we have seen in the last class. In the last class, we have seen how to use the combiner functions. These combiner functions are optimization techniques which will help us to reduce the data that is transferred between map and reduce phases. Okay, and this combiner function runs on the mapper side to give its reduced output as input to the reduce phase. Okay, so combiner function can't be decided whether it can be called one time or multiple times. Based on the output that is given by the map, the combiner function will be called again and again so that it reaches some extent to optimize the data transfer between map and reduce phases. For this, we have seen an example of output of two map jobs. Here, the output of one map job is taken as three different key value pairs, and map 2's output job, again, two key value pairs. Now, in the absence of combiner function, the data that is transferred to reduce phase as input will be 1950 along with the three A temperatures that are captured. Again, map 2's output will be 1950, two A temperatures that is captured, right? These two will be the outputs of map phase, which will be fed as inputs to the reduce phase in the absence of combiner function. But if we make a combiner function, an optimization which runs on the map phase side, in that case, it acts as same as the reduce function. So it will find out the maximum temperature out of these three A temperatures, that is 20. And in this case, when the combiner function is run, it will find out the maximum temperature among the A temperatures. It is 25. Now this input is taken. 1950, 20 and 25 will be the output of the combiner function, which will be fed as input to the reduce function. Now you can see the difference. Rather than taking this big list of A temperatures to the reduce phase, now we are passing only two A temperatures for that particular key associated. So we are able to reduce the size of data that is transferred between map and reduce phases. Though this is a very small example, in the real scenarios where you take large amounts of data, this combiner function will considerably, significantly save lots of amounts of data that is transferred between map phase and reduce phase. Again, I have given you an alert that combiner function should be selected appropriately. Whenever the aggregate function is giving two different outputs after a combiner function, better not select the combiner function. Better not opt to introduce a combiner function in between map and reduce phases. So you have to see whether the aggregate function that you are selecting to perform the reduce task, whether it is compatible enough so that it gives the same output in the presence of combiner function or in the absence of combiner function, right? If it is giving the same output, then only you should prefer for combiner function. Otherwise, you better not take the combiner function. For this, I have given you an example of finding out the max temperature. Instead of passing this entire input, you are passing it as max of 0, 20, 10 and max of 25, 15, which will be passed as max of 20 and 25. What is happening here? Rather than passing these 5 A temperatures, you are just passing 2 A temperatures among which the max will be taken. But if you take, instead of max aggregate function, if you take mean, what will happen? Let us see. Now, if this is instead of maximum, you're finding the average temperature. In this case, the average temperature for this is 20 plus 10, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So 70 divided by 5, it will be around 14. the value will be 14. But in this case, if you take the mean of this first map will be 15 and the mean of second map will be 20. Now mean of both these values will be taken, 15 and 20 will be taken, which will give you around 17 point. 1 second, this is, yeah, mean of this 15 mean of this 15 and 25 plus 20, yeah, 40, 20, yeah, 20 is taken. Okay, so what is mean of 15 and 20? You will get it as 17.5. So if you take the mean in the absence of combiner function, you will get it as 14, and in the presence of combiner function, you are getting it as 17.5. So there is deviation in the results. There is mismatch in the results. In such cases, selection of combiner function to use in association with an aggregation function like mean will give you deviating results. In such cases, better not to use combiner function. But max, in both the cases, it is giving the same output. In that cases, we can use combiner function. Okay, you have to decide in what way you can introduce a combiner function in between map phase and reduce phase. Okay, because it is an optimization technique, it is always better to intelligently choose the usage of combiner function. And we have also seen how to specify the combiner function. We have to specify the combiner function by using the reducer class, but putting it on the map side. For that, what we have done, we have made a small change in our code in the main max temperature class. We have written 3 classes for the map reduce job, right? Max temperature mapper, which will be whose dot class file is taken to set the mapper class, and we have written max temperature reducer, whose dot class file will take to set the reducer class. Now we have to add one more line, set combiner class. Okay, this set combiner class also takes as parameter max temperature reducer. Right, so we are using the functionality of the reducer class and making it to be executed on the map phase side in order to reduce the data transferred between map phase and reduce phase. So how you're doing that? Using set combiner class. You have already set the mapper class. Now on the mapper classes map phases side, you are setting the combiner class also. You are introducing an intermediate level, that is combiner function, using max temperature reducer dot class file, and you are using set reducer class. Okay, that is the only change you make. Then you decide the output type of the key and the value pairs given by the reduce phase, and finally call the wait for completion method and exit the program if the job has been completed, or continue if the job has not been completed still. Okay, this is how you create a job with a combiner function. Right, this we understood very well in the last class, but still it is always good to have a quick recap of what we have done yesterday. Now we have also seen how to run it in a distributed, run it as a distributed map reduce job. The same program without any alterations, we can run it at a larger scale using the full data set. Here we have taken just 2 years data, 1950s data and 1949s data, in order to understand how the basic code in Java works. Now the same program can be used without doing any alterations to it on the larger data set also, on the larger NCDC data set also. Now it scales to the size of your data very easily and the size of your hardware. Now if you take a 10 node elastic compute cloud cluster, by running it on high CPU extra large instances, the program is found to take 6 minutes to run. Now, if you increase the number of nodes, this time will obviously come down because the task will be distributed onto more nodes simultaneously. Okay, so to analyze 100 years data of the meteorological measurements, it took around 6 minutes. Now, if you increase the number of nodes in the cluster, then this time will come down to seconds also. Now, we have also seen that Hadoop streaming, how Hadoop streaming provides an interface in order to write MapReduce functions not only in Java, but in various other languages like C, C++, Ruby, and Python. Hadoop provides an API to MapReduce that allows you to write your MapReduce functions in languages other than Java. Now, Hadoop streaming uses Unix standard streams as the interface between Hadoop and your program. So you can use any language that can read standard input and write to standard output to write your MapReduce program. So you have a Unix standard stream which can be compatible enough with map and reduce functions. In the middle, you have a Hadoop streaming which uses Unix standard stream that is compatible enough with map function and reduce function written in any programming language. Okay, so to provide for this compatibility, you are using this Unix standard streams. Now, streaming is naturally suited for text processing. If you want to perform some sentiment analysis, or if you want to do some text analysis, or if you want to find out what is the sentiment associated with series of texts. In such cases, you may have to perform text processing, and for that, Hadoop streaming is very much suitable. The map input data is passed over standard input to your map function, which processes it line by line and writes lines to standard output. Okay, so whenever input data is passed over the standard input to your map function, either through input say interface, or it is read from a file, that will be processed line by line and writes the result back to the standard output. It can be a monitor or it can be a file on HDFS cluster. So what this streaming is doing, Hadoop streaming acts as an intermediate channel between map and the reduce phase, which makes it compatible enough to work with any type of languages that are used to write these map and reduce tasks. Output key value pair is written as a single delimited line. And input to the reduce function is also in the same format, a tab separated key value pair passed over the standard input. So whatever is the input given to map phase and reduce phase, or whatever the output they evolve, all these are in the format of key value pairs only, irrespective of the languages you are using to write the map and reduce function. Now the reduce function reads lines from standard input, which the framework guarantees are sorted by key, and writes its result to the standard output. Okay, so Hadoop streaming, what is the difference when it is written in Java or in any other languages? Hadoop streaming makes it compatible enough to work with this map and reduce functions irrespective of the language it uses to write those two functions, map and reduce. Now let us see how Hadoop pipes are used in order to write the MapReduce task. Hadoop pipes is the name of the C++ interface to Hadoop MapReduce. So if you want to write map and reduce functions in C++, then Hadoop pipes are the interfaces to write these MapReduce jobs. The pipes use sockets as the channel over which the task tracker communicates with the process running the C++ map or reduce function. So how do these pipes communicate? Pipes use sockets as the channel. You know what are sockets, right? Sockets are like connectors which connect between two different phases. The pipes use sockets as the channel over which the task trackers, the slave nodes, the task trackers are the nodes which are responsible to perform the actual task of map and reduce, right? So these pipes use sockets as the channel over which the task trackers communicate with the process running the C++ map and reduce functions. Okay, if they are written in Java, the way of communication is different. If they are written in C++, these Hadoop pipes are used as sockets to perform the communication. Now let us rewrite the max temperature program in C++ and run it using pipes. Now we have already seen how to write a max temperature mapper class, max temperature reducer class, and max temperature to create the job in Java programming language. Now let us write the same thing in C++. You will be able to understand this very well because you know the basic idea of writing the code, right? So most of the things are almost same in both the languages, but according to the language we are using, some changes have to be, minor amount of changes have to be made. Okay, now what are the header files that we need to include? If we are going to implement any algorithm, then you have to include algorithm header file. And if you want to specify any limits to the variables of a specific data type, say if you want to specify that limit for character value is 0 to 255 or minus 255 to plus 250 characters, I think it is 0 to 255, you don't have minus value. Yeah, if for a character variable, if you want to specify the limit as 0 to 255, and for integer it is 0 to some 72,000 if it is a positive integer, and minus 32,000 to plus 32,000 if it is both negative and positive integers, like that. If you want to specify some limits, predefined limits to the variable of a data type, then you have to include this limits header file, and you know this standard int header file. And if you want to perform any string operations, you have to include this string header file. These are all examples. It is not that we are going to use all these header files in our current program, but these are various header files you can import into your include into your C++ code. Now you can also include these pipes.hh header files, all the header files that are under Hadoop directory, because you may have to use some functions which are compatible enough to work with Hadoop and your C++ program. So you have to have a mediator that smoothens the communication between Hadoop and your C++ program. That mediators will exist in this Hadoop header file. Okay, so from this header file, Hadoop, you are trying to import pipes.hh. Generally we use .h, right? But why is this double H? Double H helps us to specify extra features into this header files, extra variables into these header files, right? So if you want to add any extended features, if you want to utilize any extended features, you have to use these extended header files which are denoted by .hh. Okay, now include Hadoop files pipes header file, and include Hadoop files template factory header file also. Why we use this template factory header file? You doesn't know what would be the requirement for each application that are running the MapReduce jobs on HDFS cluster. In such cases, you may have various types of templates. Okay, some may use string and int values, some may use double and float values. You doesn't know what would be the template, so you have to get ready with the template factory which will have flexibility to be customized into whatever the application demands. Okay, for that you are using Hadoop template factory header file, and you're also using string utilities header file. If you want to use any string utility functions, then you have to use this string utility header file from Hadoop. Now listen carefully, all of you have to focus in order to understand this C++ code that we use for map and reduce functions. In Java, what we have done, we have written separate classes for mapper, reducer, and another main class in order to pack these mapper class and reducer class. Now in C++, we are going to write this all in a single C++ program. Okay, and you have to perform you have to use inheritance concept here. In the Java programs, we have extended the mapper and reducer classes. Here also we have to do the same thing. We have to use mapper and reducer classes which are defined in Hadoop pipes namespace. Remember, this namespace is very important for us. Hadoop pipes namespace, in which you have mapper and reducer classes that are defined. In Java, what you have done, you have used org.apache.hadoop.map_reduces mapper class and map reduces reducer class. So that entire package naming convention, you remember? org.apache.hadoop.mapreduce.mapper, mapper superclass, and dot reducer for reducer superclass. Here you are using, instead of packages, in C++ we don't have packages, right? We have namespaces. Now under this Hadoop pipes namespace, you have the mapper class, mapper superclass, and the reducer superclass. Did you understand, students? Now let us create a class max temperature mapper which extends the mapper superclass. Where is the mapper superclass available? In Hadoop pipes namespace. And what is its visibility? Public. Okay, so you are inheriting public Hadoop pipes mapper superclass. Is the template clear for you? Now, within this superclass, you are going to define the constructor. What is the constructor we are taking? Max temperature mapper. This is, you know that constructor name is same as the class name, right? So you are defining this constructor so that whenever an object is instantiated for this class, immediately this constructor will be invoked without having to be called explicitly by the object. What is the goodness of a constructor? Whenever an object of a class is created, that class's constructor will be automatically executed. Now this constructor, max temperature mapper, is taking what kind of parameter? A context variable, in order to pack the output of map phase and transfer it to the reduce phase. So you're taking again Hadoop pipes namespaces, task context class, and that for that task context class you're creating the context object. Understand this carefully. I'm trying to explain you each and every part of the code. So I don't want you to just mug up and present it in the exam. It has to come by default to your mind to write the code. Okay. Now we are creating a max temperature mapper constructor, and it expects a context object which is of the task context class. It belongs to task context class, and that task context class belongs to Hadoop pipes namespace. Okay, so this object is created for the task context class. Task context class will help to transfer the output or data from map phase to reduce phase. Okay, now in this class, this is how the constructor is defined. Now you are going to define the map function. In this max temperature mapper class, you are going to define the map function. In this map function, you can see you're using the context object, and here starts the definition of this map function. What you're doing here, initially you're getting from the context variable, get the input value, that is nothing but the record, the offset of the file and the record of the entire data that is captured and stored at that file offset. You remember NCDC data, that entire raw record which contains series of numbers. From that you are going to pick the year in which the A temperature is captured and the A temperature that is actually captured. Right? So you're taking that raw record context.get input value and converting that into a string type variable line. and string again belongs to std namespace. The string data type belongs to std namespace here. Now you are creating a variable line of string type and getting the raw record by using get input value of the context object. You are using context object to invoke the method get input value, which fetches that raw record and stores it in the line variable as a string variable, as a string data. Okay. Now, what is your next task? You have to fetch the year from that string and you have to fetch the air temperature. Got it? Now, you create a variable called year. And how you fetch the year? You know where it exists in the raw record, right? From the 15th index number, 4 characters you have to fetch to get the year 1950 or 1949. Okay, so you are using the substring method of the string class. You are using string classes object or variable line dot. From that raw record you have say like this 9999 1950 and some other values. Again you have plus 111 the temperature followed by some other numbers. Now from this raw record you're capturing the substring 1950 and it starts at index location 15. From there you fetch 4 characters. The substring is captured and stored in year. And in the same way, capture the air temperature also from the substring 87, capture all the 5 characters and store it in air temperature string value. Okay, still we haven't converted into integer. You are just storing it as string value, air temperature as string value. And finally get the quality code also. Observe this here. You're creating a string variable q to fetch the quality code, and that quality code exists at the index number 92 and it spans for just 1 character, 1 or any other number. If it is 1, yes, it is properly captured. If it is any other number, it is erroneously captured air temperature. Okay, for that we have taken the quality code. Now we are checking for the intactness in the air temperature that is captured, genuinity of the air temperature that is captured. How you are checking? If air temperature not equal to some miscellaneous number and if the quality code is not any of these characters, if it is not equal to 0 or 1 or 4 or 5 or 9, then you can start capturing the original air temperature. Means passing it as value to the passing it as output of the map phase. So how do you do that? In the context object, I just write it out. In the context object, using the context object, you emit the output of map. What is the output of map? Year that is fetched out of the raw record and air temperature that is fetched out of the raw record. This is the key value pair that is emitted by using the context object from the map phase that will be taken to the reduce phase. It is like context is a box. You are putting your output into the context box and reduce phase will fetch the input from that context box. Right? There should be some mediator between map phase and reduce phase, right? Context acts as that mediator. Now you have checked the quality code. You understood this, right? If the air temperature is not equal to miscellaneous value and if it is equal to any of these codes, then it is proper air temperature that is captured. Now emit that by using the context object. Now come to the next stage, that is defining the reducer class. Again, class map temperature reducer extends the reducer superclass which is available in Hadoop pipes namespace that is of public visibility. Right. Now in this you are giving the constructor which takes context object as parameter. Done. Now you define the reduce function. This reduce function is already defined in the reducer superclass. Now you are overriding it. Okay. So what parameter it is taking? It is taking a context parameter. Now what is there in this context? It is taking context object as parameter. Now what is available in this context object? The output of map phase, which can be utilized to perform some evaluation in the reduce phase. Right? So in this function, you are initializing max value integer variable with int minimum. As I already told you, this int minimum value is given the least integer value that is possible, that is 2 power minus 31. Now this max value, the least value, is compared with the 8 temperatures, and whenever it finds a maximum value than this least value, that maximum value is taken as this current maximum value. Now this 8 temperature is compared with other 8 temperatures, and anywhere it finds the maximum 8 temperature, that 8 temperature will become the current maximum 8 temperature. This goes on until all the list of 8 temperatures are compared. Okay, that is being done in this while loop. Observe this while loop carefully. While context dot next value. Next value will fetch each and every value for each iteration from the context object. What do you have in the context object? The key and the value pairs. Right? Now, from this context object, you are fetching each value by using next value method. Okay, while context dot next value, this loop, as long as it fetches the values, it will go on executing it. But once the next value expires, means there are no longer any values available in next that can be fetched through next value, this loop will come to an end. Did you understand? Now, while context dot next value, as long as there are 8 temperature values that are available in context that can be fetched, this loop continues to iterate. When the next value can't fetch any more values from the context object, then this while comes to an end. Now, in this while loop, what is being performed? Again, observe this very carefully. You are trying to find out the maximum air temperature. Now remember, in context object, air temperature is packed as a string value. It is not packed as an integer value. Key value pairs sent by this map phase are passed as string values. Key is passed as string. Air temperature is also passed as string. But can you compare with a string value to find the maximum air temperature? No. That is why you're using Hadoop utilities to int method. Observe this. Observe this part. You're using to int converter. You're trying to convert whatever the value that is fetched from context into an integer which is available in Hadoop utilities namespace, and that integer value you're comparing with the so far maximum value that is discovered and finding both among them what is the maximum value and updating your current maximum value. Quite easy to understand, right? Now, by the end of this while loop, what will happen? The maximum air temperature that is encountered will be put into max value variable. Now, your key is ready. The year in which the data is captured. And air temperature is also ready. Maximum air temperature is also ready from the list of air temperatures that are captured in that particular year. Now, pack your output. How do you pack your output? Into the context by using emit method. In Java, you used context.write method. In C++, you are using context.emit method. Relatively, you understand the code so that it will be easy for you to remember. There you are using context dot write. Here you are using context dot emit. What you are emitting? The key and the value. What is the key now? From the context, get the input key. You didn't make any changes to the input key. So whatever is packed in map phase, same key exists in your reduce phase also. So get the input key from the context object. And how do you pack the value? The maximum value, convert it into string, because you're no longer evaluating this maximum temperature. The maximum temperature that is recorded in a particular year, that is your final output. So convert it back to string by using toString converter. Okay, parse it into a string from Hadoop utilities namespace. Now you have packed into context object the key value pair. Key is the year and the value is the maximum 8 temperature recorded in that particular year. Both are of string type, remember. Done. Now map phase is completed. Its output is consumed by reduce phase. Reduce phase is also executed, which has the output ready for you. Now what is the next next task that is left out? You have to execute the task. In Java, what is the next job that is left out? Pack it into a job. Pack the mapper class and reducer class. And if there is a combiner function, pack that combiner function together into a job by using the main Java class. In this case, you can add main in your main C++ program itself. So what you're doing here, observe the last lines. Int main, which takes two parameters, that is argument which takes as integer, and argument vector, which takes the input file path and which takes the output file path to which the data has to be written, to which the output have to be written. Okay, and what does it return? It returns a Boolean value. What Boolean value? Whether the task is executed or not. If the task is completed, it returns 1, otherwise it returns 0. Now, how do you actually invoke the task? By using run task method of Hadoop pipes namespace. You're invoking this task, you're invoking the MapReduce task by using the run task method. Observe this run task method, which belongs to Hadoop pipes namespace. Now, how do you take the parameters here? While running this MapReduce task, you are taking the template factory that takes as parameters max temperature mapper and max temperature reducer, and both together used as an instance. This template factory, understand this very, very carefully. This template factory that belongs to Hadoop pipes namespace, this template factory that belongs to Hadoop pipes namespace, it is for this template factory, an instance is being created. Observe this empty brackets. An instance for this template factory class is being created by passing by getting a generic template, max temperature mapper. All the time you pass one mapper class and one reducer class, right? So that is the generic template here. You're passing to the generic template a max temperature mapper class and a max temperature reducer class. Okay, so run task method of Hadoop pipes namespace expects a parameter that is nothing but the object of template factory, which takes max temperature mapper and max temperature reducer instances. Got it? This will complete the entire code for your MapReduce function in C++. Got it? Now let us see how to compile and run this. This is little complex. I think you need not remember the instructions as it is, but just try to understand how we give the instructions. The main thing is to remember your code for MapReduce functions in Java and C++. Any one question may come for you in exam. write the MapReduce function in Java or write the MapReduce functions in C++. Okay, now we can compile and link our program using the make file in the following example. So you take the C++ compiler by taking G++ and C++ flags you can invoke by giving the number of map jobs here. Here we are assigning this task to 32 map jobs, means 32 data nodes to run as 32 map jobs, and it expects the type on the platform on which this MapReduce job have to be run. So you're using Hadoop install C++ and which platform it expects, whether a Unix platform or a Linux platform, which platform it expects, that has to be included. Now you're calling max temperature .cpp. That is the main C++ file's name you have created, which includes your map function and reduce function. So it is max temperature .c++ file. You are getting it into the scope of this max temperature, and you're using the C++ compiler and the number of flags and creating a wall which installs C++ program by specifying the platform along with the Hadoop pipes. So you're taking Hadoop pipes, Hadoop utilities, and Hadoop threads. Remember, you have to include this Hadoop utilities, Hadoop pipes, and Hadoop threads to make it compatible to work with Hadoop, to create a compatible context for smooth communication between Hadoop and C++ programs. Okay, for that you're taking Hadoop pipes, you're taking Hadoop utilities, and you're taking the threads also, because you know that on HDFS cluster you're not working with a single job, but you're working with multiple processes simultaneously, multiple jobs simultaneously. For this you have to execute multiple threads of a particular instance. That is why you're taking the thread using GO2 $@ symbol. You need not remember this entire template. This is the predefined syntax in order to run a C++ program in Hadoop environment. Okay, that much you need to remember. Word to word, it is not necessary to remember. Don't spoil your minds. This is how to execute, this is how to compile and run a C++ program in Hadoop environment. If that much you remember, that is enough. This part, if you understand, that is enough. Okay, so the make file expects a couple of environment variables to be set. What are those environment variables? The platform and the installation. Apart from Hadoop install, you need to define platform which specifies the operating system, the architecture, and the data model. Say if you are working with a 32-bit system or a 64-bit system, that has to be mentioned. It is run, if at all you have a MapReduce job to be run on a 32-bit Linux system with the following, if you're trying to run the MapReduce job on a 32-bit Linux system, then you can give the command like this, %export, the platform is Linux, and it gives some platform specific numbers along with the system's configuration, whether it is a 32-bit or 64-bit. Then you have to call the make file which executes your actual MapReduce job. Now on successful completion, you will find the max temperature executable in the current directory. So when you successfully run your MapReduce job, which is written in C++, then you can find the executable file of max temperature. What is the name of your C++ file? Max temperature, right? So max temperature.exe file will be available to you in the current directory now. Now this executable file can be used by the data nodes in order to run the MapReduce jobs. In the previous case, in Java, you created a Java archive file. In C++, you are creating an executable file. Okay, if you understand this relatively, it is easy for you to remember. In Java, you have created Java archive file to transport the MapReduce jobs onto the data nodes to perform the execution. In the same way, here you are creating a max temperatures executable file which can be transported onto HDFS cluster to perform the task. Now, to run a pipes job, we need to run Hadoop in pseudo distributed mode where all the daemons run on the local machine itself. Now you know what are the Hadoop daemons, right? Name node, secondary name node, uh, data nodes, job tracker, and task tracker. All these daemons are to be run on a single machine if your Hadoop is running in a pseudo distributed mode. Means in your cluster, if you have only one machine, in such cases, to run a pipes job, we need to run Hadoop in pseudo distributed mode. Now, pipes doesn't run in standalone or local mode because it relies on Hadoop's distributed cache mechanism, which works only when HDFS is running. So with the Hadoop daemons now running, the first step is to copy the executable to HDFS so that it can be picked up by the task trackers when they launch, map, and reduce tasks. What did you understand from this? If the cluster is having a single machine, as it is, you can't run this C++ map reduce task. So what you have to do, pipes doesn't run in standalone mode, in a local mode, because it relies on Hadoop's distributed cache mechanism. Pipes rely on only Hadoop's distributed cache mechanism. It can't run with a single system. That is why you're making all the 5 daemons run in a pseudo distributed mode in order to make the pipes understand that it is working in a distributed architecture. Okay, though you are running it in a pseudo distributed mode, because all the 5 daemons are up and running, it creates an environment for the Hadoop pipes to understand that it can work with a cluster in a pseudo distributed mode. Okay, so this works only when HDFS is running. Now, as you have transported your Java archive file, which has the entire job in it, onto data nodes, in this case, what you're doing, you're transporting the executable file, max temperatures executable file onto the HDFS cluster. With the Hadoop daemons now running, the first step is to copy the executable file, copy the max temperature.exe file to HDFS, onto HDFS cluster so that it can be picked up by the task trackers. There in Java archive file is picked up by the task trackers. Here, executable file is picked up by the task trackers when they launch, map, and reduce tasks. Okay, how you do that? By invoking a Hadoop command in the file system by putting the max temperature executable file that is stored under bin folder. Okay, now this will enable this max temperature executable file ready to be exploited by, ready to be picked up by the task trackers to perform the MapReduce task. So the sample data also needs to be copied from the local file into HDFS, because the sample data on which you can perform the analysis and test whether your code is working fine or not. That is also available in the local file system. That also has to be transported onto HDFS cluster. For that, what you are doing, you are just copying the sample text file by invoking Hadoop commands, Hadoop file system, put the By taking Hadoop commands file system, using the put command, you are transporting the local file sample.txt onto the file sample.txt on HDFS cluster. So this is the input file from your local system that you're copying onto the file on HDFS file system, HDFS cluster. Okay, now we can run the job. Now we use the Hadoop pipes command, passing the uniform resource identifier of the executable file in HDFS using the -program argument. So how you do that? First invoke Hadoop pipes. When you invoke this Hadoop pipes, you are telling the compiler that the compiler is going to expect a file that is written in C++, which has to execute the MapReduce job. Okay, so it is taking -d Hadoop pipes Java record reader. Yes, we have to set it to be true, and record writer also we have to set it to be true, because record reader will read the data from the local file that is written onto HDFS cluster, and after the MapReduce task is performed, you get the result. That result also have to be written again as a record. So you're taking the help of record writer. You have to perform the reading task by using Hadoop Pipes Java record reader, and you are taking Hadoop Pipes Java record writer. You may get it out. We are trying to use C++ code, but why we are using record reader of Java? Remember, Java can use native methods which are written in C and C++. So Java is compatible to work with functions written in C and C++. So we are using Java's record reader to read the data from a file, and Java's record writer to write the result to a file on HDFS cluster. Both are enabled to be true, and from which file you are reading the data? The input is taken from the sample.txt file, which is written onto HDFS cluster from the local file, and you are writing the data to the output. And which program you are executing? The program, the executable file that is stored under bin directory. maxtemperature.exe file that is stored under bin directory. That is the program we are executing through Hadoop pipes. Got it? This is how we need to compile and run your C++ MapReduce class. Now we specify two properties using the D option here. Hadoop Pipes Java record reader and Hadoop Pipes Java record writer, setting both to true to say that we have not specified a C++ record reader or writer, but we want to use the default Java ones. You have a flexibility to write, to use C++ record reader and writer also, but you also have a compatibility to work with Java record reader and writer to work with C++ MapReduce jobs. Okay, you can opt for anything. Either you can use same C++ record reader and writer, or you can also work compatibly with Java's record reader and writer, which are for text input and output. Now, pipes also allows you to set a Java mapper, reducer, combiner, or partitioner. We can save the goodness of combiner functions to C++ programs also. We can bring that goodness and use it in C++ programs also. Along with Java mapper and reducer, we can also set the combiner or partitioner classes. In fact, you can have a mixture of Java or C++ classes within any one job. This is very good, right? You need not, if you're not very comfortable to write code entirely in C++, you can use combination of C++ and Java also. But you have to use some header files which can make this flexibility happen without any issues. Okay, so the result is the same as the other versions of the same program that we ran previously. Though we use Java, whether we use Java or C++ or combination of Java and C++, the result will be same as your previous version which we have written only in Java. Okay, in the next coming sessions, we are going to develop a MapReduce application, and the configuration API, we are going to check how it works and combining the resources and how to perform variable expansion. Students, are you understanding well these topics? Kavya?
Yes, ma'am.
Savita? Bhargavi?
Yes, ma'am.
Understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Devmalia, you are able to Understand, because in the middle you were absent for some days, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
You're able to follow?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, see you in the next class. We'll stop the recording and take attendance.